Okay, looks like things are, pardon me, up and running. Looks like my volume levels are okay. Sorry, I need to get this whole new project. I need to get a splash screen for it, or a pre-roll, or whatever folks call it. Um, yeah. So hey, I am Joshua, and this is my lunchtime project. I'm calling BS.CHESS, where I'm building towards making a Twitch playable chess game that really doesn't have a lot of rules. I'm thinking it will just be basically, you can move the pieces around. There's no teams, there's no turns. It should be pretty crazy. But I am also taking the time to actually try to do some good engineering principles. Not that I wasn't not that I was super awful last time, but I really wanted to kind of illustrate how I build things when I'm not under a time crunch, even though I am under a time crunch. Yeah. So as with my other lunchtime project, this is also a open source project. You can find it at github.com/joshua_skelly/bs-chess. Yeah, not a lot to see right now, but this is only the second episode, or episode one, depending upon how you like to number your counting or your numbering systems. But let's get going. So last time, or the very first episode, last time we had a very basic. You think so? We have a very basic MVC app. So we have a model view and a controller. It doesn't do a lot right now. It was just a super basic example trying to get that going. And we also have a very basic pub sub implementation that allows us to decouple our view from the controller. The controller is still slightly coupled with the model. I mean, I don't know if they're like, I think that's probably okay for this project. I mean, maybe in the future it might push harder to pull that away, but right now the controller knows quite a bit about the model. But as far as the view, it doesn't really know. It just fires off events, and then the view will respond to those events. So let's take a look. So again, this series is called BS.CHESS. I've been calling it a no holds barred, no rules chess game played through Twitch chat. So that's where we want to get. And I want to maybe for these first few episodes hit on my series goals for this lunchtime project. I want to have a more structured stream. So I want to follow the actual software development process. Typically, this is a 5-step process where you have requirement phase, a design phase, a implementation phase, a verification phase, and a maintenance phase. It's sometimes called, I believe, the software lifecycle. But this is in general how most shops build software. Typically, you'll hear of like agile versus like waterfall development, and those just really, they're similar, but they also are different. Mostly, they kind of refer to the I guess the duration of each phase. So with an agile development cycle, you have a way smaller phase. So for me, I'm trying to go through all a abbreviated version of these steps in an hour, basically, which is crazy fast. So I've broken it down to three phases. We'll do a design phase. I will spend about, I don't know, 15 minutes doing that. We'll do an implementation phase, and then we'll do a QA verification phase. So 3 phases. That's kind of how I'm structuring my format. So hopefully that works out. My other series goal is to use the MVC pattern to kind of really kind of sell folks on how you can build an app using this. And there are strengths to it, and hopefully we can illustrate those. One of those strengths is because the view is pretty well decoupled from the controller, I'm allowing folks to write their own views and submit them through pull requests, which would be really rad. Right now, it's not to that point, but we need to basically develop an API, a series of events they need to listen to make sure that they get all the information they need to get. But let's figure out some goals for today. What's our first goal? I think we want to actually have our controller start doing things. I'm thinking maybe let's actually have maybe a more concrete view implementation. namely a console view. So basically, this is a view that will represent the data for the game, but purely from a console perspective, which is kind of cool. And this might be related, but we're probably going to have to do some code refactoring, structuring. Okay. And I think that's good for now. I started reading up on chess engines because, as you probably are not surprised, computers playing chess is not a new thing. There are lots of folks who actually study it in an academic sort of level. So there's actually lots of documents for me out there to read. I've kind of pared down what we'll need to do in the future for our chess engine. We don't really need the AI side of things. What I think we need is basically a data structure or a board representation. We need a move generator or a validator. So basically, when given a move, we need to be able to determine if it's a valid move. And we need a way to determine checkmate, or basically. I don't know if check is as interesting because of the way this is going to be structured, but we definitely need to either figure out a checkmate. I think that's probably the right thing to do. I guess the simpler design would be just to allow the king to be taken. But I think maybe that's not really very chessy. So maybe, but again, it is real time. So maybe not. Maybe we can scrap that for the time being. Maybe for our chess engine, all we would need is a move validator, which might be nice. That's certainly a more simple thing to solve. But that's for tomorrow. Or yeah, so let's say that tomorrow. Tomorrow, or how about I'm gonna call this my future Joshua problems, because right now they are things we need to worry about, but not right now. So chess engine. What does the controller actually do? Which is probably going to be largely the chess engine. But for today, a concrete view implementation, maybe also to maybe start to understand, solidify, sort of thing. So like the relationship or how it's interactions between the view and the controller. And this will probably fall out of the previous two, right? So by building a concrete view implementation, we will hopefully start to understand this. And this is basically like a lot of times when you're doing development, it's worthwhile to make a rapid prototype and try to basically building a rapid prototype is a small time investment, but allows you to develop the understanding of the problem. And hopefully you can identify like design issues and things you've overlooked early on. So let's see if we can just get a very small prototype going. And actually, I think I might, yeah, let's just start working on our view. I want a console view. I think maybe we should start organizing this stuff too. So let's do a new Python package. It's going to be, I guess, views, for the lack of a better term. And here, let's add a new Python file. Let's say this is console view.py. And I'm also wondering, it might be nice just to have a maybe a view interface, but maybe that can be defined in init. because basically I want to have a nice template for folks who want to implement a view where they can look at and make sure that they are doing the right things. So console view, let's just class console view. Let's have object. And what is the console view going to do? It's going to display text. So whatever text the controller sends it, it should display. And it will also capture user input. Typically, most implementations of UI are actually pretty heavily tied to display, unsurprisingly. So like for example, most mice libraries require a display to be present for you to actually be able to use the mouse, which makes sense. So somehow the controller and this need to talk and they need to share information. Because this is in charge of game logic, and this is in charge of displaying the state of the game and handling user input. So we need some way of again, I guess trivially I could just have a def output. Hey Bluestone, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Again, these names will probably change. I'm just trying to figure out how things are going to work, right? So the console view needs to it needs to draw stuff to the screen, and the input needs to handle or send input to the controller. On the controller side, similarly, we need to def like handle events. And then I guess we need to say something like pub sub dot subscribe to an event, and it needs to be this dot handle events. We need to call it something, so I guess player input. And then this needs to do something like handle events. So we could say something like message equals event dot message. Self.model.data equals message. I'm just trying to think of like how to kind of this basically this little, I guess this implementation going to where we'll do like an echo sort of thing. I'm trying to think of our loop too. The c.run. I'm trying to think, is it better to thread this, or is this better to have it? And right now we can just do a loop, I suppose. Let's just do run running equals true while running. C dot update and V dot update. And they have to implement these methods. I'm worrying now too, like on a console view, the input might, it most likely will block on input, so I have to be careful about how that's handled, especially if I just use like raw input from Python. Also, let's go ahead and get rid of that pass. This probably is okay, even if it blocks, because we don't, right now it's pretty basic, but let's just do something like, I guess, input. Enter a message. And I think this is message is equal to that. Then we say we need to import our pub sub. Import pub sub. Pub sub dot publish player input, and so class player input type object, init player input event, self.type equals player input, and self.message equal to empty string. I could say ebt equals player input event, and ebt.message is equal to that, and then we can send the ebt. Okay. And then I don't know if we need to do anything here for the controller on update, because right now it just needs to do the handle events. Actually, on update, maybe we can tell the yeah, let's do this. Let's just have it display the rid of that property. So we just need to have it output. Actually, just rename this to display. And the display. That's fine. So this output, and this should just be simply comma message. This is print message. And actually, yeah, I mean, this is, I guess we can get rid of this input, because that's what update is basically doing, is gathering the the player input and forwarding it. So let's see if this works. Debug. Oh, nope. Wrong thing. App and stop. And we also, in our app, instead of, we need to, from view, so from views, import console view. And then this is equal to a console view.console view. Debug. So if we step into here, the controller, all it does is it does a display, self.model.data, F8, F807, and then type not iterable. I thought the view should subscribe to display. Let's take a look at that again. So F7, F7, F8 subscribers, none. Player input. Interesting. Why? Oh, is it console view? Yeah, this should have. Is this not getting hit? Oh, because I put it in the wrong. Put it in the wrong constructor. Oh my goodness. Def net. There we go. There we go. Okay, F7, F7, step. So now we still have none. We only have just the player input. Let's step into the constructor, I suppose. That's the next thing we need to take a look at. So, so I'm not newing up an object. Debug. So V should be an actual instance of the console view object. Okay. And we step into here, step into there. And now we have a subscriber. Excellent. We step in here. Message should be hello world, because that's what our default data is in our model. V update, create player input event, and then we're gonna. This is actually gonna block on this. You can go to console and it should say input a message, so we can say test. And then now we should have this event. And the message should be test, and this should get sent back to the controller, which right now just simply sets the self model data to message, and that's all it does. Cool. So then I could say test2, and this is kind of how that works right now. So the view is in charge of entering or displaying text to the console, and it's also in charge of taking console input and sending it to the controller. Hey Chad, how the heck are you? Yeah, thanks Bluestone, no problem. It's still pretty early days. Like I don't really have anything super fancy going on right now. Just slowly building up the MVC framework to actually let us make the thing. Yeah, so eventually it'll be something like A2, A4, right? And that will, move the pawn up to, right? But right now we don't really worry too much about that. But we do have, this is our console view. Our console view object. And we have an input event. Yeah, the player input event might need to live somewhere a little bit more centralized, because this is not unique to the console view. This is actually something that will probably be used all over the place. Yeah. Okay, so what were our goals again? Let's just refresh that. So more concrete view implementation, namely console view, refactoring code structuring, and start to understand and solidify the interaction between the view and the controller. So really, our data is maybe if I could fake it to make it look more like our data might look. Let's take a look at our model. It actually may look something more like what is it? Rook, knight, bishop. Oh man, I'm gonna break my brain on this. Yeah, rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. \n. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. \n. So reading up on some of the chess programming strategies, a lot of people just use, so there's two approaches to representing a chessboard. One is a piece representation, so you represent only the pieces, and the other representation is representing the squares. And I think the squares kind of is a little bit simpler. At least, like to kind of grok. Because basically, like when you look at the string, it looks like a chessboard, which is a nice feature. Rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. Which is more similar. And then if I run it, take a debug, and so we dump that out, and I'm getting multiple new lines, which is interesting. Oh, because the way I'm using this this doc string, there already are new lines in it. There we go. So again, this could be a representation of the chessboard, right? From a console perspective, that really is all there is to it. You fancy pantses could use Unicode, right? We could use Unicode because I think there is support for all the chess pieces. But yeah, this should be our 8x8 board. And yeah, this makes me wonder. Maybe we should make the console view use curses, because that might be a nice way to kind of draw this. I don't know. Maybe it should be something more like our console view, enter move. And then in our controller, I guess, right now, let's not do this. Let's just kind of pass. Yeah, maybe we can work on some fancy pants drawing for a little bit, because I think we're. I mean, right now, if it's just a simple method as far as just like, if all the controller has to do is worry about handling events that come into it, and if the console view and the view object only has to worry about just rendering what is sent to it. Right now, this is a simple string, but this does represent the board state relatively well. I mean, I think, yeah, that is the board state. A lot of representations just use this. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if since we have some time, let's go ahead and play around with a little bit of curses, which is built into Python, which is nice. So let's see if we can actually get this working. This might be out of scope for this particular stream, but let's. I think we should use curses here. Let's think about where we want these events to live. Because right now we just have the one view. Well, technically we have two views. This is our test one. I don't know if we really need this anymore. Let me go ahead and I guess delete it, right? Let's delete that. Okay. So we have our console view. You know, we could have like a Pygame 2D view. We could have a Piglet 3D view. Because as long as they know how to render the data, that's all they really care about. We can't really go too far on this because this requires we need to decide on chessboard data structure, which will likely just be something like this, actually. The console view. This is a what is this? Class that encapsulates logic for displaying displaying for console, display, and input. And I'm wondering if it is just as simple as something. Well, I mean, this API might need to be decided upon because we might need to have like a draw. I don't know, like we might need something a little bit more sophisticated than just having a string being sent to the view. Most likely. The life is yours. Hey, how am I doing? I'm doing good. I'm just trying to make some progress here. Trying to think of trying not to go out too outside of my initial scope. This event. I mean, it could. I mean, but PubSub has nothing to do with this, really. Let's just create a new Python file called events.py. And then let's just stuff this in there. Okay. And then this can just say from events import player input event. There we go. That seems okay. Yeah. So BS.CHESS is a new project. It will be a Twitch playable version of chess, but with no real turn order and no real teams. I thought it'd just be fun just to allow people to input like piece moves and just execute on it in a fairly close to real time effort. But this stream or this series is more focused on having a more solid software dev approach. So I have like a design phase, and right now I'm in the implementation phase. And I should have a QA verification phase here in a little while. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm trying to be a little bit more methodical about how I build this thing, because my previous stream felt a little just kind of more like slapping stuff together, which is probably, I don't know, might be more entertaining to watch, but hopefully this is a little bit more informative. Maybe curses isn't outside the scope of this. Let's just go ahead and commit where we're at. Let's just say something like cd BS.CHESS get status clear. Let's say git add dot git commit -m stubbing out console class. Okay. New projects are always fun. And again, I'm trying to have a little bit more like architecture in this one, and a little bit more computer sciencey stuff in it. Cool. Okay, so we have that. So let's just go ahead and let's just start playing around with curses, I guess. And this can be in the console view. I have my little Python has a standard curses library, so I can just say import curses, which is cool. They suggest using the curses wrapper so you don't so you don't like mess up your console state, because that can happen. No, I'm starting to wonder now too if actually if the controller and the view should live on their own thread. That might make more sense. It might make things a little bit a little bit, I don't know. Cool, yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that you're messing around with Python. I find it a pretty easy language to jump into. Yeah, let's actually, instead of playing around with curses, let's play around with getting this thing threaded. Typically, threaded things have a start and a join in Python. So we have start and join and timeout. And I think right now, because I'm trying to think, like, do we need to new up a console view, or is it sufficient just to start one? Maybe it makes more sense to new one up. I don't know. Yeah, let's just do that, I guess. I also don't claim to be a super expert in threading, so if I am making mistakes, please let me know. Thinking something like typically you'll have something like self.worker thread is equal to none. And down here in start we say self.worker thread is equal to threading.thread. We need to give it a target, so target is equal to, say, self.run. And then we have maybe a run method, def run. And this is just a, instead of here, we can just say, instead of manually calling update now, we can just have this run forever, right? So say like while self.running, do this. Self.running equals false. Okay. Don't need the update anymore. Join. Let me see. So start, so we're thinking of that. Self.worker thread.start. There we go. And then also here on join, that should be something like self.worker thread.join. Actually say something like self.running equals false. Self.worker thread.join. I believe is the correct thing to do there. And we should probably also pass along the timeout. Cool. I think that's a pretty basic thread implementation. So console view, we start it, we join while we're running while we have been started. That seems all right. And I think similarly, the controller probably should also have similar methods. So a def start pass def join timeout equals 0 s def run s. And then again, I'll just kind of follow my pattern here. So self.worker thread equals none, self.running equals false. And then here, or self.running equals, let's also say self.running equals true in the start. So self.running equals true. Self.worker thread equals threading. Let's import threading. Threading.thread. And this should just be target equals self.run and self.worker thread.start. Then self.running equals false. Self.worker thread.join. Timeout. There we go. And then here, I think all this should do is just call display. So while self.running display. And this should work okay. Maybe. Threading is always a fun topic. So in our app now we need to do something like running equals true while running. Usually the pattern here is you do something like c.start v.start try while true. I say sleep 1. Import time. And then here this needs to be time.sleep. Then what's it? Oh yeah, we need a accept keyboard interrupt. On keyboard interrupt we say c.join and v.join. I think that should be it. That should let's make sure this is actually doing what I think it's doing, but let's I think it should be doing okay. So we step into here. And we have, this is our controller. So this is running and thread and start. And I'm going to put a breakpoint here in the run because we should hit that immediately. And we're actually, if you look over here in the debugger, we're actually on a separate thread. We're in thread 6 now instead of the main thread. I think I actually may have goofed that. Did I? Yeah. That's okay. And in our view, or console view, we should also be in this thread here. Actually, I think we're probably blocking on that. Yeah. So actually, in our view, or maybe in our controller, we shouldn't. Maybe right now, let's only display if we're dirty, right? So self dot is dirty equals true. If self dot is dirty, display, and self dot is dirty equals false. And then here on handle events, we get an input from the user, but let's go ahead and say self dot is dirty equals true. So basically, this means we're going to be handling some user event, and then we need to redraw the screen. So this should prevent that behavior from happening. So let's give it a run. And this is in console view, so this will block. So we should see, yeah, we should see enter a move. And I could say like A2, A4. And then it will redraw. Oh, and it's yeah, so there is some, because this is, I may need to refactor. We need to think about this pub sub stuff, because right now this pub stuff is happening on 2 different threads. Maybe that's not quite what I want. Oh yeah, my head is in the way. Sorry about that. Yeah. So over here, it's just the debugger is showing the state of the board. And it's not quite right. It's close, but not quite right. It should be like A2, A4. Yeah, so maybe, I think the threading is happening okay, but the way this is displaying is not super great. And I think we might potentially have threading issues because the way the pub sub works is so the console is the one that basically invokes the console. No, not the console view, but the controller is the one that invokes display. And this actually is happening on this thread. Maybe that's okay, maybe that's not okay. So the live viewer says, what does threading even mean? So threading is a way of running multiple concurrent processes. So what happens is here is the code goes from top to bottom, executing each statement. And what happens when it hits this c.start and this v.start, it creates a new process. It forks a process, and this process will go and do its own thing, and so will this one. And then this main process here just kind of hangs out and waits for a keyboard interrupt. So if I hit that, okay, well, oh no, so usually, okay, so I guess Windows doesn't do it, but on other OSs, this will actually fire. Oh well. Yeah, so the controller lives in a process and the view lives in a process that are separate from the main app. Okay, so we are basically at time for our QA verification phase. So let's kind of take a step back and look at what we've implemented. So we have started going forward with this threading stuff, which I think is probably the right way to do it. But I need to kind of just sit here, take a look, and make sure I'm not making any blunders. So here, I guess what we want to do is if self.running return. Because we don't want to create multiple threads of our view, at least for this instance, right? You can have multiple instances that each are running their own view. Perhaps, maybe not the way that this console view works. Maybe this should be like more of a singleton-y kind of thing. So yeah, that is a consideration. But right now, if you call self.running return and on join, self.running equals false, or join timeout. I think this is okay if we call, I think if we call thread join multiple times, I mean, ideally we do something like worker equals self.worker thread, and then self.worker thread equals none, self.run equals false, and then worker.join, something like that. And then if not self.worker thread, return. So if we don't have a worker thread, don't do anything. And for example, like if you were just to new up a console view and then call join, this would prevent any weirdness from happening, because you can't join a thread that doesn't exist, right? Hey, new obj. Yeah, no worries. You're catching the tail end of me trying to get my view and my controller running in separate threads from the main process. Is what I'm working on. And I'm just doing right now, I'm in the verification phase where I'm trying to make sure that my code, again, just trying to do just like a inspection of my code to make sure that things aren't going to be too buggy. I think these implementations probably are very similar, so let's just do that again, like that, and then starting the thread. If we're already running self.running, we're just going to return, because we don't want to start it multiple times, because again, the controller, we only ever want one instance of a controller running. And potentially we may want multiple instances of a view, but not a console view, because the way that the console works, we can't really spawn new consoles. Was LBRL multi-threaded? LBRL, technically no. The Twitch Observer package I wrote is multi-threaded. The Twitch Observer framework I wrote with help from Felix has a inbound and an outbound thread worker that handles the messages coming in from chat and going out back to chat, and then a main process, and then yeah. So that was the threading on that one. Okay, so that seems all right. Yeah, again, nothing super like advanced here. I'm just trying to get some basic threading going. Yeah, so we have our controller, we have our console view. The output's still a little odd. Like if I could run it here, I think it's set up so you can see it. Clear Python app.py. So then we have our board representation. Right now it's totally just fake data. It's just, rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook, and then a bunch of pawns, and then empty spaces. This is a square. Basically, this is what a square oriented representation of the underlying data would be. Also, you notice that the two different colors are differentiated by capital versus lowercase. Again, I read through, there's a Python chess engine called Sunfish, which is pretty instructional. So I'm lifting good ideas from there. I'm not lifting code directly, but some of the things they do I think make sense, and I'm going to kind of base my implementation off of that. And then you can say something like A2, A3. And the interleave gets a little goofy here because we go right back to, because unfortunately my view is getting called from 2 different threads, and that's not ideal. Maybe we can quickly fix that up. I could write a roguelike. I was thinking about writing a TDL view and maybe like a 2D sprite view. The views actually aren't too bad to write. So let me just try and see if I can do something like in our console view. Right now the output, we just directly output it. So maybe instead I'll have a self.buffer equals nothing. And then here I can say self.buffer equals message. And then here, while running, print self.buffer. And then this is going to introduce, like, because both threads are accessing this buffer property, we have to introduce some thread safety here. But right now I'm not too worried about that. So I think what this should do is self.buffer equals message. Yeah, so this, yeah, that might be the better way to do it. Python app.py. Blah. Right now this does no checking. Just there we go. Yeah. So now this is a little bit better, where we get the board representation, it asks for a move, and then we enter the move, and then it should, in theory, give us an updated board representation back. The camera is clipping the board. Oh no! Let me just drag it over here. Again, it's nothing really fancy right now. I think I will maybe get a TDL version of this so we can get the nice fancy coloring and stuff like that. But the nice thing about it is that that stuff is actually abstracted out of, it lives just in the view. As long as the model is correct and the controller updates the view, we should be okay. There we go. The camera should be on the right side of the stream. Maybe I can play around with that. Yeah, and then this should just go forever until we get keyboard interrupt. In which case, yeah, I guess this was blocking on user input, so it probably complains, but that's okay. We could handle this a little bit better, but yeah, I think that's all right. This is update the output buffer to do make this thread safe. I don't know if it's hyphenated. Cool. Yeah, so we have a basic app that fires up a controller that knows about a model, and it fires up a view, which is a console view, starts them up, and then it just waits for a keyboard interrupt. And then these things are doing their own thing. Cool. All right, so I think that's a good place to stop. I think we have hopefully accomplished our goals. So we have a more concrete view implementation. So we actually have a console view class that handles input from the console and displaying to the console. We did some code refactoring restructuring. We basically just created a views module, and we have a view in it. We'll probably have, I'll expand this to other views as well. And hopefully in the future, people will, if they're so inclined, they can write their own views and submit them as pull requests. And also starting to understand and solidify the interactions between the view and controller. I'm not sure if we're so successful on this. Right now, the interactions are pretty, I guess in the process of doing this, we are slowly understanding this a little bit better, because right now the controller doesn't need update anymore. This is not called anywhere. Yeah, so the controller gets so the player input gets handed to the controller via this handle events, and also this might be, again, we can, now that we're threaded, we may need to rethink some of this stuff too. make a note here to make this thread safe. Yeah. I'm wondering, again, this might need to live in its own thread too. I'm not entirely for certain. Because otherwise this reaches out into its, well, I don't know. My implementation has that drawback. Cool. So we receive player input events here in the controller, and then the view receives display events. That seems all right. Okay, let me go ahead and commit this for now. Cool. So the changes are pushed out live. All right, folks. So hey, I'm Joshua. This has been BS Chess. Again, this is a very programming heavy episode of BS Chess. It probably will be that way until maybe the latter parts of it, because right now we are building up some of the components and architecture we need. Right now we're building up the app and the app architecture. Then we'll move on to our little chess engine, which is basically a chess move validator. Once we have that, we're getting pretty well on our way, because once we can validate chess moves, then I can create a Twitch view, which will allow it, which will pull in a Twitch chat, convert that to a player input event, and hand that off to the controller. And then at that point, we should be able to be playable. So right, I guess that the next big piece is the actual chess engine. I'll keep reading up on this in my Discord. I will keep posting. I've been pinning. I have a pinned. So let me do this to Discord. I have a Discord server. Each channel in there represents a project I'm working on. Plus, there's a show and tell channel for my viewers, because my viewers are actually very talented, and a lot of them are developers. And I really am stoked when they share stuff. But yeah, there is a BS.CHESS channel in there where I am talking about my thoughts behind it. I'm pinning resources, all that good stuff. So feel free to join there if you want to know more about this project or other projects I'm working on. I do a Sunday Delver stream. That's Sunday at noon. And this stream is weekdaily, so Monday through Friday I stream this project for an hour over my lunch break. Yeah, I'm a Twitch affiliate. You can follow me here on Twitch. I consider it like a tip jar, so if you like what I do, if you think it's entertaining or informative, please feel free to subscribe. It means the world to me. And this month, Twitch is running a promotional called September, so this is the first time you've ever subscribed to me. This month is half off, and I still get the same benefit, which is really cool. So if you've been waiting to pull the trigger, feel free to do so. So hopefully these next few streams will be very kind of like more engineering and more programming, and then we'll get over to more like arty and designy towards the end of the project. I'm trying to keep this one shorter than the previous one, but we'll see. And before I go, I don't want to forget, I want to thank my wonderful subscribers, because they're awesome. So in no particular order, they are Mrs. Beefy 111, Codrake, New Obj, Glass Casket TV, Dr. Kegel, Neil Slichter, No Field, Smith, Literal Train, Nixrod, That Bluestrone, and SG Basi. Thank you so much for your support. And I will see you all tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good rest of your day.